I'm homeless and I get ready for work at the gym. A lot of people don't understand why somebody would choose to be homeless, and honestly, rent was kicking my. I was paying $2,000 in household bills, and now I pay $20 for my gym membership, and this is where I sleep. When I left my apartment, I thought I'd be living in my car rent free. The day I moved out, my car completely shut down, but it was too late to go back. I slept in that car so many nights without air and heat until one day I just couldn't take it. I told my manager I was living in a broke down car, and now I sleep at work. When I tell people I'm homeless, they imagine me digging in dumpsters like this looking for food. I chose to be homeless because I'm tired of paying bills and I need to save some money. They didn't want to give me food stamps, so I'm out here living rent free, eating ribs. I said I was homeless, never said I was broke. I get my packages sent to a pickup location and go pick it up from there. I'm homeless, and this is how I date. I shower and get ready at the gym, and then I take my stuff to storage since it's not that far. I Uber to and from the date, even though they usually ask to come and pick me up. I don't mention being homeless until the second or third date, but it hasn't been an issue so far. If you have a problem with me dating, just remember I'm homeless by choice, and unlike you, I don't have any rent to pay.
I've created Function Health to finally give everyone access to something I've been doing for my patients for years. That's giving them the
Black women have mastered the art of rebranding. We will turn anything into a flex and make it a stylish thing to do. Take, for example, being a single mother. That used to be associated with shame, guilt, and misdeeds. But now ladies brag about their single motherhood, defend it as a normal part of living, and they even do interviews about it. And insult those who shame single mothers. And for decades, Black women have been single by choice, focusing on their career, self discovery, and their own personal dreams over the tyranny of traditional families, relationships, and long term commitment to men. And now Black women are homeless by choice. And now this is not a shameful thing. This is yet another progression of Black female ingenuity and their ability to rebrand. The ability Black women have to make lemonade out of lemons. Now, some aren't as happy about the progression or degression, however you look at it, and admit that being homeless is hard, sad, and lonely.
We're in America. America don't give a about us. America ain't paying like that. Last statistic I saw was like roughly 20% of Americans are homeless. You know what I mean? We're trying to hide it. There's a lot of shame around it. Even me talking about being homeless, I don't want to talk about that shit.
But there are plenty who are taking their homeless journey online and sharing how homelessness, car living, or van life is the kind of lifestyle they chose and the kind of lifestyle they are loving. As is the case of the female content creator, the Chanel Show 14, she's open about her homeless adventures and is quick to remind people that her homelessness was a choice, as it gives her the freedom to save, live rent-free, and eat ribs. Her manager allows her a place to stay, free of rent, and she is using that to her advantage, as she is stocking up on cash. But it doesn't stop with single women. There are also single mothers who are enjoying the van life or rent-free living. Some see this as an adventure and an opportunity to travel for a living.
So I live in a van with my toddler as a single mother, and this is what it's really like. This is the honest truth. Sometimes you honestly don't know where you're going to sleep at night, and you might find yourself at a Walmart or Cracker Barrel parking lot. Limited space in my van means that I have to trade off some amenities, a shower and a bathroom. Life is full of trade-offs, and van life is no exception. When the weather doesn't cooperate, it is definitely not ideal for a family of two to be stuck inside a tiny van. You can manage for a day, but anything much more than that, you're asking for trouble. Be ready for a breakdown. I have a 1998 Dodge Ram van. I started thinking of mechanical breakdowns as a time to relax rather than a source of stress. Make sure to plan to take it slow. Everything takes longer with a baby on board. Add an extra 45 minutes to 3 hours of driving, and pretty much everything else in between. Van life isn't for everyone, but I definitely love this lifestyle. I'm still on a hunt for a new van, so if this is something you're interested in doing with your kids, don't worry, I got you covered. I have a $5 ebook on getting started with van life as a single mother. Make sure to check it out and follow for more van life realities.
Now, the most fascinating thing about these trends is the amount of social support these ladies get. And that does not stop them from enjoying a vibrant dating life. Notice again Chanel Show 14 and her getting ready for date videos. It hasn't seemed to hinder her love life one bit, and she's actively in the dating market while she goes through this phase of life. And while some may look at this with a bit of scrutiny, it's safe to say many of these ladies are met with support and well wishes. But here is another crazy thing about this van life or homeless blogging phenomenon. First off, we know glamorous homeless living would not fly for men. There is no world or reality that exists in which men would be able to brag about being homeless on purpose. Like society would trash them. Both men and women would pretty much call them a bum. Secondly, homelessness is not something that impacts lazy, irresponsible, or mentally insane people. Estimates show that anywhere between 40 to 60% of people who experience homelessness actually have jobs. We can no longer assume that people are homeless because they are lazy and don't have a work ethic. Things are just a bit more complicated today. Estimates show that around 17% of Black women have experienced homelessness at one point in their life. And while Black people make up anywhere between 13 to 15% of the US population, they account for over 36% of all homelessness. Some people say they are able to make homelessness an enjoyable, stress-free situation, but homelessness obviously comes with a lot of risks, especially for women, including an increase of sexual abuse, violence, vulnerability. And here's an excerpt from an interview with a woman who passed through homelessness, and you see what she has to say. Homelessness in general comes with a ton of risk, particularly for women. And I do think these trends are speaking to deeper economic and social challenges that are going on in the community that really force people to rethink what and where they are placing their security. It is telling that so many people, including women, find themselves in situations where they feel they have no more options but to live on the street. I encourage women, especially young women, to really challenge the notions that were shared with them. Millennials, boomers, the whole independent, I can do bad by myself idea. I've said it before. Many of us who are taught that really are actually doing bad all by ourselves. And honestly, humans are not meant to operate like that. God did not create or intend for us to operate independently, fending for ourselves. And I think it's about time ladies know that while they have been trained and told that is the best way to live, that is not God's perfect intention. I am learning as a woman that there is provision and safety in following God's ways. For me as a wife, that means allowing the guidance and leadership of my husband. And for single ladies, that may mean staying connected or getting connected to healthy spiritual leadership that can keep watch over their emotional and spiritual well-being and even provide some help or financial guidance while navigating these rough seasons. My point is, no one is meant to do life alone. Anyways, that's what I got. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.
I'm really excited to announce my new kids book, Aisha Learns to Love Her Hair. Aisha's hair is stunning, but she struggles to see its beauty. Through encouragement and wisdom from Grandma Lily, Aisha learns powerful lessons about self-acceptance. Aisha's journey is a heartwarming tale of family, culture, and confidence. Share her magical journey with your little loved one today, available for purchase.
That's why your nerves fail and your feet.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is a somewhat of a last minute live. I just came across this topic today, but honestly, this has been something that I've been wanting to talk about over the last few weeks. There has been this increase, and I don't know if it's just my algorithm or if it's just, I don't know, my YouTube feed, but I am seeing more and more ladies who are vlogging their homelessness journey. The video that I just shared with you guys is something I posted about a month ago, and it was a lady who was talking about why she was homeless by choice. It was a young Black woman who says that she was choosing ribs over rent because it just got to where rent was super crazy expensive. It was hard for her to upkeep, and she just decided that she wanted to be able to save the money, and she was planning on living in her car. As soon as she left her place and decided to live into her car to try to save some money, her car breaks down. She's not able to get any heat, any air, nothing. And so then it sounds like the job that she was working at is allowing her to sleep in their office, right? So she has this whole page, this whole vlog about basically being homeless by choice and like what that means for her. But she is one of many that I have seen who are jumping on this trend of homelessness. But what's the most interesting thing to me about this whole homeless journey is
how as soon as I started seeing women talking about it, vlogging about it, and really experiencing it, I'm seeing how the framing is really starting to change. There's always been a lot of fear and a lot of fear mongering associated with homelessness. Well, and particularly, there's always been a lot of shame associated with homelessness. And usually, when you think of homelessness, at least in the past, it was you think of, people who are strung out on drugs or just men who are lazy or bums. Like there's like these archetypes that people have when they think of homelessness. But now that we're starting to see more and more women who are really being impacted, and we're seeing young women, you're seeing young, able-bodied women, young, able-bodied Black women who are experiencing homelessness, the framing is really starting to change. No longer is it these people are lazy, you don't know how to manage finances, you don't know how to save, you are a druggie, you are irresponsible, whatever. Like all those terms are going out the door. I'm noticing as ladies are starting to embrace homelessness, quote unquote, embrace it, or rather are experiencing it, it's starting to be positioned as this like empowering self-love journey. It's being positioned as a choice, one that they are taking on to either be liberated from whatever, whether it be just liberated from high rent, liberated from high bills, liberated from a living situation that they were not happy about. And oftentimes it's being framed in this way as if they have a lot of courage. They have the courage, they have the guts, they have the strength to be able to go on this journey. So the framing around this to me has been quite interesting. And I think really it's pointing to a few things. But I think what it's actually starting to show us, I've said this before, that the illusion is really falling. The illusions that we've been seeing for decades upon decades, and the things that are proliferated online and media and social media, the soft life, the luxury lifestyle, the boss babe, the women, Black women who are outpacing, outworking, outliving, outdoing, out everything, that illusion's starting to fall because it was always an illusion. But now it's getting to the point to where ladies just can't keep up with it anymore. A few days ago, we talked about how, women were, actually the last few months, there's been this consistent theme of women who are starting to crash out and talk about how they don't want to be single anymore. They're tired of being single. Many of them have mentioned economic challenges. And even those ladies who aren't experiencing the squeeze of the economy, even those ladies are starting to stand up and say, we're tired of being single and independent because I have my own place to stay. I have a car, I have my luxury apartment, but nobody is here to hug me at night. Nobody's here to talk to me. I can't share my life with anybody. So we've seen that over the last few months, right? If you guys haven't, go back and check some of my content. I break it down in detail. We're seeing ladies stand up and actually start to articulate the truth, right? But now, as the economy changes and as, so much in society is being reshaped and just turned around and turned upside down, we're starting to see more and more young women, and yes, more and more Black women who are facing homelessness and experiencing homelessness and having no choice but to choose homeless. Well, I don't say choose homelessness, having no choice but to walk through homelessness. And I'm not saying this to shame. I'm really not saying this from a place of shame or judgment, because I understand that the economy is tough. And I've had the opportunity to work at a few homeless shelters. And what I found, particularly in the Bay Area, is that it's not uncommon to have people who are either homeless or who are, you have insecure living scenarios. It's not uncommon to have people who are actually working full-time jobs or working some jobs, but something happens. Maybe if they have somebody else, that person lost their job, or so now they had two incomes, now they have one, or maybe they're just not making enough money. Right? Inflation has risen sooner than their income. And so they're not making enough money. And so they're trying to find a new job, but they're in that in-between spot. Like there's all kinds of scenarios that happen, especially when you live in a really high cost area. And sometimes even if you want to move from California to somewhere that's cheaper, moving still is its own expense. So I understand that not every single person who experiences this or find themselves passing through it is necessarily just a homeless drug dealer or, somebody who's on drugs. But I think it's really crazy to me to see how we're taking something that has been associated with shame for like since forever. And now all of a sudden this stuff is starting to be reshaped as this like empowering journey. And the thing that really kicked off this conversation was you had this artist, Don Robinson, who was an artist from En Vogue, a really popular group. I want to say they were popular back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. If y'all are familiar with En Vogue, let me know down in the comment section. But this is a very, very popular group. They just performed, was it the NBA? They just performed Summer recently. The group did. But you had this singer from En Vogue who just came out, I want to say today she dropped a video and admitted that she's been homeless for the last 3 years. Like the last 3 years. Yeah, Free Your Mind and the rest of it. Yeah. That was a very popular group. They have some really popular songs that if you heard it, you'd be like, okay. Shout out to you, Game Changer, with the 5. It says in the Black community, homeless women is still higher on the social ladder. Listen, I just did a tweet about that a few days ago, or where I was just like, I really feel like Black women are more prepared for homelessness than they are to be a housewife. And that's crazy that I would even have to say that. But as I'm seeing this increase of homelessness, and then I'm seeing the framing around it and like how they're starting to remove shame, I'm like, it actually seems like there's not only more comfort, there's more of an acceptance of the possibility of homelessness versus the reality of actually wanting to work with a man and be somebody's housewife or just be a wife, period. So that's a whole other conversation, but I totally agree. Shout out to you, Carl, for president. It's good to see you. You said 50 this year. She was the love. Yeah, I thought she was like, yeah, she's yes. I think you're referring to Don Robinson. Yes, I think is actually 50 this year. Absolutely. But the reason we're talking about this is she went viral today over posting that she has been living in her car for the last 3 years. And that's what I want to go over today, because you have this woman who was very successful, experienced more success than most singers, most aspiring artists, and probably touched more money than your average American, period. I can say exactly I know how or why, but I just, she has been in spaces and places that some people will never, ever, ever experience. But now fast forward, this woman is in, 50, I think you said, and she's been homeless for the last 3 years or almost 3 years. And we're going to break down exactly what she has to say, because I want you guys to notice the framing, why she's in the situation, what she thinks about in the situation. And then I want you guys to compare this with the general ideas out there that are connected to homelessness, particularly men who are homeless. When women are homeless, I think generally speaking, there's going to be more empathy, especially if she has children. But when men are homeless, I would argue that empathy does not exist. The expectation is usually that man is lazy. He's lazy. He is not good with his money. And there's something wrong with him. I think, like, generally speaking, now you guys let me know down in the comment section if I'm off here, but I think generally speaking, if we find out a man is homeless, the first thought is, what did you do wrong? What's wrong with you? Or there's just little to no sympathy, right? It's just like, okay, whatever, another day. But if a woman is homeless, I think there's generally more concern, particularly if she has children. But anyway, so we're going to go over a few things. As you guys are coming in here, like, share, subscribe. You can show support on Cash App, Venmo. Y'all know the drill. Okay. Also, real quick, I wanted to acknowledge, because I got some Cash Apps come through yesterday on my last live that that came through after it ended. So I wanted to acknowledge those real quick, who actually did show some love yesterday. So shout out to you, Daniel Thompson, with the 10 on the Cash App. I appreciate you. Shout out to you, David Sanders, also with the 50. I saw these after my last live come through, so I appreciate you. Also, Alton Jermaine with the 1. I appreciate all y'all. Little or small, it makes a big difference. Thank you so much. Okay, and that was from yesterday. All right, so let me move on. I wanted to cover off a few things. There's a lot to cover off here, but now we're ultimately looking at what I've noticed is the rise of homelessness among Black women, and particularly like the framing around it. And then this, I'm also wondering, okay, so are we seeing a cultural shift? Just like we saw over decades how being a single mother or being a baby mama had less and less and less shame associated with it. Are we now going to see more and more young, able-bodied women who are experiencing homelessness, and we're going to start to see less shame associated with it? Like, I don't know. I'm curious. Ooh, what just happened? Sorry, guys. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick recap. It says Dawn Robinson reveals she's been living in her car for several years. She says, I felt free. So already the framing around her homelessness journey is she feels free to be living in her car. Honestly, as a woman who grew up around other women, and as a woman who knows how we are, let me just tell you, by and large, 99% of I feel like the female population is not happy to be homeless. Is not happy to be living in a car. It's something you may have to do to get through a situation, but I don't know very many women out there who are looking for a reason to do that unless they feel they have no other choice. But the whole, oh, I'm choosing to be off the grid. I'm choosing to not have my own bathroom that I can go shower in every single day. I'm choosing to not have my own kitchen. I'm choosing not to have a nice, comfortable couch that I can lay on. Like, most ladies are not going out of the way to do that, just because we are just, I think, generally speaking, are more, we like our creature comforts. We're more moved by those things. We're more moved by those things. So like, I don't really buy the I feel free by not having the comforts and having the conveniences that most women like and desire and feel, comforted by. Like, I don't buy that. I just think that's something that some people just have to deal with. They find themselves in a tough situation and they have to find a way to make the best of it. Okay, what's going on, Demetrius? Good to see you. Okay, so let's go on this homelessness journey, right? She says, I felt free. Here she reads, Dawn Robinson has opened up to her supporters about her current living situation, revealing she has been living in a car for the last few years. The En Vogue member shared a video on her YouTube channel and explained why she chose a lifestyle and updated people on what she has learned throughout the journey. You guys, for the past 3 years, I've been living in my car, she says. I said it, oh my gosh, it's out, she said with a sigh of relief. The singer explained how she was living with her parents in Vegas in 2020, but decided to move out after her mother started taking her anger out on her. Then her manager convinced her to come back to LA where she could stay with him for a bit. However, the situation also didn't work out and it became increasingly difficult to find an apartment due to the manager playing games. So basically, she was looking for a place to stay for a few years. Here it says Robinson began searching car life and learned about the community of people who live in their vehicles. She thought to herself, wow, I could do this, and started her journey on March 9th, 2022. Upon reflection, she gathered that her former manager was attempting to control and trap her by playing with her housing situation, and car life was her solution. So here's a whole video. We're going to break it down here. I'm going to break down some of the audio, but if y'all want to check out the full video and see her expression and everything, it's actually on her YouTube channel. Okay. Here it says, although it was unknown territory, the Hold On artist felt good about the choice she made. She says, I felt free. She shared about her decision. I felt like I was on a camping trip. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. She pointed out that a lot of other celebrities have lived in their cars during their respective journeys, including Marvin Gaye. She then reiterated that she is not looking for pity, but rather she's sharing her story because it has been a chapter of awakening, healing, forgiving, and growing. It's not what was me. I'm learning about who I am. I'm learning myself as a person, as a woman, she said. Her comment section was filled with empathy and support. Wow, you never know what people are going through. I always looked up to you as an artist. People used to today, I look like you, which was a huge compliment. You are so beautiful and strong. You will make it. Better days are ahead of you. God bless you. Someone will make a movie out of your life one day. One person wrote. Another added, as an American woman, I totally understand your circumstances. I am praying for your protection, safety, prosperity, and good health on all levels. A handful of people shared that they have been through very similar circumstances. So again, overall, she's getting some empathy, right? Sharing her journey. She's getting support, people who are wishing her well.
Here it says Robinson auditioned for a female group in 1989, which then went on to become En Vogue. The four-woman ensemble released their debut album, Born to Sing, the following year and achieved commercial success as the body of work fell platinum. The streak continued with their next multi-platinum album, Funky Divas, in 1992. Robinson sang lead vocals on the album's top charting singles, which include My Lovin', You're Never Gonna Get It, Giving Him Something He Can Feel, and Free Your Mind, right? So there were some really, really popular singles that she was a part of. So that's just a quick recap of, the news that right now I saw going viral, hitting social media. But the reason, again, I wanted to cover this is because she is like a microcosm. She represents what I believe is this growing theme of people in America, particularly Black women, who are actually experiencing homelessness or who are very close to it. And again, I'm not here to shame anybody who's having financial challenges, because I understand the economy right now can be very challenging. What's interesting to me is the framing around this. And I think the biggest challenge that I have, and I've said this over and over and over again, is how there seems to be an unwillingness to have a critical view of the things that Black women do. I think there seems to be really a critical view. Yesterday, we looked at, right, the dating challenges and why Black women struggle to be alone. And what we discovered in the live yesterday is that common messages include Black women are single because of Black men, right? It's Black men's fault that Black women are single. Another common issue is, systematic racism, right? The apps don't favor us, or the dating platforms don't favor us, or whatever, right? Systematic racism. But nowhere in that conversation, when we were looking at different media platforms and looking at different news articles, nowhere in the conversation was there ever a question about how Black women showed up in the dating market. Never happened. The assumption was that Black women were deficient and that there's systematic racism, right? So that's what we looked at yesterday. And I said, man, there's this theme when it comes to these challenges that we experience, challenges that impact Black America. It just seems to be so difficult for us to acknowledge that there can be challenges or things that Black women are doing that hurt them. So we talked about that yesterday. Now, fast forward, we're looking at homelessness. And like I said, when you're talking about a homeless man, 9 times out of 10, there's shame and there's guilt and then there's judgment associated with it. When anybody thinks about a man who's homeless, there's usually no empathy at all. And then they're usually judging him for just being lazy or just not having good financial skills, right? But I'm like, there's no empathy there. But now when Black women are experiencing homelessness, it's this like self-love, this empowerment journey. It's about, learning yourself. It's about, learning about your femininity. And again, I'm not here to necessarily judge somebody who's hitting hard financial times. But what I'm saying is that why is it that there is never a willingness to have the same critical lens that we may apply to the men, or at least have some critical lens? Or can we really say that Black women now are just all of a sudden choosing homelessness because they want to go on their own femininity journey and, they want to be empowered and they want to see how much hard things they can go through? Or is it that the economy is really challenging and women are figuring out that they actually can't do things by themselves, that they cannot handle it by themselves? And that perhaps you guys, many of us were sold a lifestyle, bought into a lifestyle that is simply not sustainable. And I'm like, I wish when we had these conversations, instead of it being about like, okay, how Black women are now being so much more empowered to go through these really, really, really challenging scenarios that I think no decent human should have to go through. Instead of us just saying, hey, maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe we can recalibrate. If this is hitting different people, maybe we can see what is causing this. Maybe we can't do things by ourselves. Maybe we actually do need to work in communities. Maybe I wish we could say that instead of this now being another opportunity, quite frankly, I feel like, to promote ideas and beliefs that aren't necessarily reality. Like, homelessness really is not a flex. It's actually quite dangerous. And, people experience it. Sometimes they have to go through times and, that's just a part of the journey sometimes. So I get it. But I'm like, let's not try to make this what it's not.
Let's not try to make this a self-love, self-empowerment journey, a focus on yourself journey. No. If anything, I feel like this is more of a reflection of a broken down system or broken down ideals. And I would hope, God willing, if somebody found themselves in a situation like this, it would cause them at least to, rethink or say, okay, is what I'm believing right? Is what I'm believing right? I see some of you guys in your homelessness over Black husband. Is the logic of love leading? Yes, as I mentioned before, I generally think Black women are more primed and prepared to be homeless than they are to actually be a housewife. And if we continue to see stories like this grace the magazine and golden media, just like you had a generation of women who were, what's the lack of a better term? You had a generation of women who were primed and prepped to believe that being a single mother is not a big deal. And, and having kids out of wedlock and raising kids by yourself is not a big deal. And that's common and normal. Just like you've had generations of that being drilled in the subconsciousness of Black women to now, it's literally nothing. If a woman has a baby out of wedlock, we have more baby showers and weddings. I would not be surprised if the intent was now to try to convince Black women that, oh, it's not a big deal if you don't have a place to stay. Okay, you just go take a shower here, just be in your car if you can, just if you can find a gym membership. I mean, which is great. It's good if you have a gym membership. Maybe that'll help with some of the health challenges. But I'm just saying, like, homelessness, that may be something that people pass through, but this is not like a long-term freeing. It's really not. Most people are not able to do this like successfully and be safe long term. Like, there are risks associated with it. And I don't like when we have these things that are actually dangerous or can be a challenge or can be overwhelming, and there's this quick desire to try to rebrand it into something empowering, because what that does is actually minimize or try to nullify the dangers associated with that act. So let's now what I want to do now real quickly is on this whole homelessness thing. I was watching a video that Dr. T. Hasan Johnson did a few days ago, and I actually thought it was interesting because it was somewhat of a reinforcement of what I have also been seeing over the last few months. And he talked about just the framing that these ladies are having when they are talking about homelessness or their homelessness journey, or right, homeless by choice, ribs over rent, I'm homeless, not broke. All things that I've heard. Y'all homeless, not broke. That's the new one. So I'm going to play this real quick. And then I'm going to move on to, the next thing, because there's a few things I want to cover up here. If you guys are joining in here, like, share, subscribe. And okay, let's get into this. So I'm just going to play a few minutes of it. But again, he's breaking down not only the theme, like I said, a similar theme that I've heard, or similar trend that I've been hearing, but also notice the framing. Okay, let me play it.
Now, another facet of that story that's kind of reaching my awareness anyway is the homelessness hustle on YouTube, most especially. Now, as of the other night, I had about, this is a Facebook post I made of a video I ran across, where up to that point, I had about 5 videos sent to me by the YouTube algorithm of Black women living in their cars. And they're not asking for help. Well, they are asking for donations, but what they're doing is they're selling it as a great thing. They're not talking about how desperate they are, how much they need help.
So, right, that part right there, exactly what I said. What I'm seeing with this homeless TikToks stuff is not ladies saying, man, this is hard. It's hard to not have a place to lay your head. It's hard to not have, it's hard to not have a warm bed to sleep in. It's really difficult to not have a heater, to have a dry place when it's raining. I don't like being in this situation. Like, you're not hearing that.
it's being positioned now as this is like a empowering choice. It was a choice to not have your own bathroom that you can actually use. It's a choice to have to go to the gym just to take a shower. It's a choice to not have access to a heater and a warm bed and a closet. You know what I mean? Like, it's a choice. And that to me was what I find to be so interesting. That's what I find to be so interesting about this, because I'm like, first of all, this would not fly for men. It's the same level of empathy is not applied. And then the narrative around it is, I'm like, you're hard pressed to find a homeless man, right? You're hard pressed, I feel like, to find a homeless man who is homeless by choice, going online, you know, doing TikTok videos about how amazing it is for him as a homeless man to not have a place to stay and how he's trying to date. Could y'all imagine? Imagine a homeless man having a TikTok page on dating while being homeless. Could y'all imagine? But you do have the lovely ladies who are in their van life journey talking about dating and still having standards, by the way. Still having standards, not settling for just anybody, still having the expectations as they are homeless. So that's what I'm saying. It's like what he said, I was like, dang, that's why I wanted to play it, because I was like, I totally resonate with that. The interesting thing to me is the framing. I'm not here to judge somebody who goes through these scenarios, because I understand sometimes life just happens. But the framing around it to me is what's the most interesting. And what the framing to me does is it keeps ladies from actually recognizing the reality of the situation and how challenging it actually might be. And the fact that life is teaching you and telling you that you can't do these things by yourself. You're not meant to do these things alone. You're not meant to do these things alone. But instead of saying that, instead of being like, okay, maybe something is not going on here. This is rough. The narrative now has to become, no, I'm going to double down on my independence. I'm going to double down on my self-love journey. I'm going to double down on doing things by myself. And I'm like, it's not working, and it's not going to work. The economy continues in the way that it's going to be very difficult, even for people who have middle class. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, it's just, you're not meant to do this stuff by yourself. That's all I'm trying to say. But okay, let me continue. With him there.
They will casually ask for help, but for the most part, they sell living in cars like the new lifestyle that's bringing them peace, whatever. And I just, I ran across this a couple of years ago, but at least from what I could tell, it looks like it may be increasing again. I'm going to read my response to it for those who may not be able to see it on the screen. It said, emotional breakthroughs aside, in this video, this is the 5th video that's popped up since last night with Black women trying to make homelessness look like a viable choice and the new source of their happiness, at least until their car or van breaks down in the...
Okay.
No.
He said, Black women trying to make homelessness a viable choice and a happy option until their car breaks down. The lady that I showed at the beginning of the video, she talked about how she chose to leave her apartment to live in her car. And then as soon as the day she left her apartment, her car broke down. So she didn't have heater. She didn't have nothing. And so she was cold sitting up in that car. And she said, finally, it got so bad, she broke down and told her manager, and her manager had compassion on her and let her sleep now in the company office. But what I'm trying to tell you is, don't let nobody fool you. This is not a glamorous life. It's not a glamorous life. I do understand there are certain people out there who choose to live transiently, who choose to live on the road, they want to travel. That does happen, and that can happen, and that can happen well. But that is a lot different than somebody who really honestly doesn't have the resources, is feeling stressed and overwhelmed by life and the burdens of life and the changing economy, and not knowing how to manage it by themselves. Two totally different things. And if you're that person who just cannot handle things by yourself, the economy is kicking you in the behind, and you feel alone, you don't have to sit up here and lie and pretend and act like it's a self-love journey. You might be able to look in the mirror and be like, something isn't working for me. What I have been trying to say more and more consistently
is that a lot of women have been sold the okie doke. They have been believing and sustaining and existing under a lie or an illusion for quite some time. And what's happening in this current economy, in this current dispensation, is that the illusion is cracking. It's completely cracking. Ladies who were told that they can do things all by themselves, that they have to be independent, that they should be independent, that they should be able to love themselves, they should be able to take care of themselves, they should be able to feel themselves and be there for themselves and satisfy themselves. Like this whole self-love stuff, it is failing miserably. You're seeing ladies crash out on TikTok and social media talking about how lonely they are. You're seeing other ladies crash out and talk about how they don't even know, they don't have a place to stay. They can't even afford their bills. I'm like, we're literally seeing these theories tested under fire do not work. God didn't create women out here to just be running around by themselves anyways, outside of a community, outside of the guidance and the protection of a community, outside of the relationship and the guidance of a healthy man. God didn't create women to be doing that. And we've been told how many years now, how many decades, right? We grew up under this stuff. How many decades has this stuff been shoved down the throats of women? And then now when it's tested under fire, we see it quickly crumble. And here's the thing about it. A man can pass through homelessness and it's not going to hit him the same way. It's not going to hit him the same way. In my opinion, because I think just as a woman and as a woman who knows women, who knows how we are, we're a lot more influenced by the creature comforts. We're a lot more influenced by the material things. So not having a place to stay, not having a warm bed or a warm home, or not having a plan and just kind of trying to exist, that's difficult. That is difficult. That's not no self-love, feminine power, She-Ra, Wakanda. Okay, like that's difficult. So like, let's not sit here and lie to ourselves and pretend like this is a new flex, that homelessness is a new soft life. No, it's not. To me, it's a reflection of a society that has a lot of cracks in it. It's a reflection of a broken down culture, and it's okay to call it what it is. It's okay to call a spade and say, this is unhealthy. And if y'all continue down this road, if ladies continue down this road, it only gets worse. And I don't want to be a fearmonger. I'm just trying to tell you that's the whole purpose of this whole single island unto myself. The end result of that is things getting worse, because you cannot navigate what's coming by yourself. We're already starting to see it. And it's not even at its worst. That's the crazy part. It's not even at its fullness. Okay, but let's continue.
So first they were talking about independence and not needing men.
Right.
Then black men were too broke and only wanted 50-50.
Too broke.
And it was, they should date.
Talk about too broke. And then now these ladies living on the street. The crazy thing to me is the whole, I'm homeless, not broke. Now that to me is crazy. I'm homeless, not broke. That's a new one. That to me is like, okay, there has to be a moment of truth here. But how many of these ladies who are opposed to 50-50? I have to wonder how many of them who are opposed to 50-50 or were at one time are now doing 100 and are on literally on the street. I'm curious about that. And again, I'm not saying this to try to make ladies feel ashamed per se, but it's more about let's face the truth. Let's face the truth. Because if we're saying 50-50 isn't good enough, but in the same breath, we're saying, oh, I'm homeless by choice because you can't afford rent or ABC, X, Y, and Z, that it's like, we're not being serious. This is not a serious conversation. This is not a serious conversation. I see some of y'all say, I love being alone. There's a difference between being alone. You can still be alone and have a healthy community. I want to be clear about that. Because I don't believe everybody's meant to be married. I would not, in today's current economy and in today's current culture, I don't recommend people get married unless they are doing it for spiritual convictions as a covenant unto God. Seriously, I don't recommend it. Because a lot of what we see today is just prostitution, honestly, it's worse than prostitution because you got ladies out here talking about, oh, this man, he got to, have all this money and do all this stuff and do all this emotional labor, but then they don't want to give nothing in exchange. They just want to come as they are. So I'm like, at least the prostitute, she tells you up front what she wants to do. Okay, you pay, she gives you a service and it's done. You ain't got to deal with the emotional labor. But this whole like, oh, I got to pay this much, or he has to pay this much and he has to do this, but I can't text him at a certain time, or I got to go a few days, like all the game, that's exhausting. So I'm like, that I wouldn't recommend anybody get married under that, because that right there would be slavery for real. I'm like, I support marriage and I believe in marriage, but only marriage is between man, woman, and God, where there are clear guidelines. You guys are doing this as a covenant unto God, and there's a spiritual contract that you guys are living up to, and there are values that you guys are living up to, and there's a level of accountability. That's what I'm talking about. Outside of that, I'm not saying that like everybody has to just get in some bummy, horrible marriage where it's like basically just prostitution and don't nobody like each other and it's hella toxic, can't nobody get along. No, like it is better to be alone in that. But I'm saying even if you're single, there still needs community is still important. You can be a single person, but still have a network, still have people that love you, that you rely upon at some level, like that. It's like healthy interdependence. It's like healthy interdependence is what I'm referring to. And also men and women are different. Honestly, I think men have the ability to exist in solitude a lot longer than ladies. This is my theory. This is my belief. I think women by nature are more communal, and we are by nature more easily swayed by the environment around us. So I do believe men can be in solitude a lot longer and be okay than ladies. All human beings are meant to have interaction. All human beings are meant to have community, but the level, right, is different. And the way in which we move is different. Men and women are not the same. Don't let nobody sit here and lie to you. Men and women are not the same. They're not. A 3-year-old knows this. A 3-year-old can look at a man and a woman and identify the differences. But somehow this society got so smart and so sophisticated, they don't even know the difference. But let me tell you, men and women are not the same. They don't act the same. They don't operate the same. And when they are put under pressure, they will likely respond differently. Anyways, that's my tangent. Okay. Shout out to you, Jamar with the 5. It says, a homeless woman dating is as hypocritical as a jobless woman wanting to only date a financially stable man. Right. But you know the crazy thing about it? There's still going to be men out there. Now, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there would still be men out there who would be cool dating a homeless woman if she was nice, if she looked the part, and if she was cooperative. Like if she was able to bring that femininity and she was able to get on a man's program, there are still men, I believe, who would be willing to work with a homeless woman. Again, if she was being a feminine counterpart and was cooperative. Whereas you are really hard pressed to find a woman who's going to put up with a homeless man. Exception being if that homeless man is fine. If he's fine, if he looks apart, then don't do it. But outside of that, I think there's a lot less willingness. Now, you guys, you tell me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, you said I would, right? Yeah. If you met a homeless, she didn't have a place to stay, but she was fit, feminine, friendly. She was cooperative. She was willing to support your vision. She was helpful. I mean, there's plenty of dudes today who would be willing to deal with, who would be willing to work with her. Because like, I don't really see men put financial requirements on women like that. I don't see men put financial requirements on women like that. The same way that I see women put financial requirements on men. But that's beside the point. Okay. Yeah, you said cooperation, that part. Cooperation, exactly. So y'all prove my point. Y'all prove my point. Right. Yeah, you said he'd house her. Yeah. She's attractive. She's cooperative. It's like, okay, come stay with me. It's fine. We can figure out something. Because especially now that's a rarity. Right now that's such a jewel. Right now that's something that you don't really come around. You don't really come across. So this is why you can have homeless women out here who are talking about their dating strategies and talking about navigating dating, because there are men today who will deal with a homeless woman if she is cooperative, if she is attractive, and if she is helpful. Okay, let's continue.
hate other races, most particularly white men, because they were too loyal to black men and should expand their options. Then it was Passport Sisters, an attempted revival of something they kicked off in Black America in the 1990s with How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Now they're liberated, living in vans and cars and Walmart parking lots. Anything but cooperation. Please make this make sense. Hashtag pride. So I'm sharing this with you because I'm seeing more of it. And I'm curious to know what you guys are seeing. And I've since gotten another, I don't know, 10 videos since then showing me more black women in vans and cars. And usually they're cars that they bought for about $1,000 several years prior. And they're driving through snow. They're looking for parking lots. And it's a mess. But again, curious to know what you guys have run across. Curious to know what you've seen. But that and the housekeeper incident and another video that I'll kind of show you on the screen in a moment kind of got me thinking about, where things are, right? Let me see. Let me go ahead and bring this on the screen. Like I said, this will only take a minute. This is based on a short blog piece that I wrote the other day. I want to say yesterday, maybe. This is on the same blog that I keep everything on, newblackmasculinities.wordpress.com. And let me just kind of scroll to it real quick. This is the video I ran across. Now, I've run across about 7 of these, these videos where, black women are being fired, women in general, but especially black women are losing their jobs. Now, I'm not making light of any of this because this can happen to anybody. And it is no fun to lose your employment. It can be extremely difficult to find new employment. So I'm not making fun at all of people going through this. But what I find is that as black women are going through this kind of thing, I'm seeing reactions that are kind of, coming to us in social media in a variety of different ways. So I'm going to kind of give you my response in this particular blog piece. And so this one, you see the gentleman there, tuxedo, serving food. This one's called, "Okay, I'll Allow You to Serve Me Now," by yours truly, right? And so basically, I say what black men have been trying to say since the 1980s, when all of this independent boss babe narrative began. Black women started telling black men they didn't need them unless they made more money than them, is that because our particular history in this country, we don't have wealth, inherited or otherwise. We tried to tell them that the jobs they had that made them feel superior to their men could be taken away at any moment. I first witnessed this in the 1990s after dating a couple of corporate consultants with bachelor's degrees in English. Now, mind you, the corporate consulting they were doing had nothing to do with their degrees at all. Nothing. Anyway, they each made 6 figures and they, got these positions right out of undergrad. Now, this was not something I saw brothers able to do at that time, especially. So we talking about 93 to 96. This is the kind of thing I saw black women able to do, right? They didn't even have benefits, in these positions, and were the first to be released when the economy took a downturn. But that superiority complex wasn't going anywhere, and they believed that they would always have such positions.
Okay, really quick. So for those of you guys who are popping in, Dr. T. Hasan, he's giving his response to just the economic changes and how it is basically put women into a whole bunch of different situations. He started off that video. If you guys haven't seen it, go and check it out. He started off the video by basically talking about how he's noticed that women are basically turning to what some would call survival sex, literally survival sex, prostitution. You're having more women who are offering. They may, in his case, he referred to a situation where it was a housekeeper who was coming in to clean his house, but then started to try to solicit, or offer other services, and saying how this is becoming more and more the norm, right? You're seeing women who are turning to different means, survival means, to basically try to pay the bills. So there's survival sex. Now you're seeing women who are quote unquote homeless by choice, and they're starting to feel the economic brunt. But what's crazy about this is the narrative that's been going on around the last few years with respect to women and how they can do bad by themselves. They don't need a man. They're independent. And basically how women are increasing their standards. They're not settling for less. They're never going to settle. And they are going to go for only the best. This is the kind of message we've heard over and over again. And even yesterday in the live that we covered off, I read an article where the woman who was writing the article went on to reinforce how she, as a woman at 30, was not going to settle for anything less. She was going to keep her standards high and demand that men meet those standards, right? So again, this is the narrative and this is the message, this is the culture that's been cultivated when it comes to ladies, and oftentimes when it comes to ladies and their understanding on how to relate to men. So when this is the cultural backdrop, but then now the economy is squeezing ladies to the point to where they literally cannot handle living by themselves. What does that mean? So yeah, so this is where we're at, and this is what he's reviewing. Just wanted to give you guys some context. Okay.
The positions many Black men didn't have, simply because they were brilliant. It never dawned on them that such could be temporary and had more to do with corporate public appearance and government policy than their brilliance or magic. Truthfully, both employment and entrepreneurship has not offered macro-level Black economic stability, particularly on a multi-generational level. Now, I say this because I hear a lot of brothers talking about quit your job, start a business. I've owned several. And I can tell you 99% of black businesses in particular fail. An overwhelming majority of, especially considering we start them with no inherited wealth, if you had to live on a business you're just starting, the overwhelming majority of people would starve. There's nothing wrong with hustling. You got to do all kinds of things to keep things afloat. But I just kind of want to push back against this idea that employment is the only option. It's the best thing possible. No, there are vulnerabilities there. You can lose your job at the drop of a hat, which people are experiencing now. But entrepreneurship is not, a panacea either. Starting a business is great, but the percentage of them that succeed, let alone provide you enough to take care of yourself, especially in the first few months, that's not a common thing either. So I really want to just kind of debunk a lot of the mythology around, either option, employment or entrepreneurship. They both have problems. They both have potential benefits, but none is just an automatic cure for any ailment.
Okay, guys. So I'm just not noticing. I got 208, 383 total, 300, almost 400 watching total, and I only got 117 likes. So y'all better treat me right. If you were here, like, share, subscribe. Okay. Show some love. I'm gonna go in a quick little break, and y'all make sure that you get those likes up. Okay, get those likes up. Okay, so let's see where we're at right now. Let's see where those likes are looking, how those likes are looking. Okay. Getting there, guys. Getting there. Shout out to you, Scorch Earth, that says respect the blue collar brother. Yes. Let me say this, and let me see if it was a game changer. This one right here, you said homelessness is a choice for attractive women. And this connects to what you're saying, Scorch Earth. Bear with me. It's funny because literally right before I went live, my husband showed me this tweet. It was just this girl who was basically talking about men who were sliding the DMs asking about her feet, talking about that they would pay for pictures of feet. And he was over here like, there should not be a homeless woman out there. All you gotta do is start an OnlyFans and put your feet on OnlyFans, and you are going to have dudes who pay for it, because there are guys out there who are just really thirsty. They are just straight thirsty, period. So should nobody be, none of these ladies, none of these attractive women should be homeless. Now, y'all know I don't rock with OnlyFans like that, but he was just using that as a point, right? Where like there are options. Now to this one right here, respect the blue collar brothers. Here's the thing about it. Like all these ladies who go around talking about how they don't need men, like that video I just posted earlier, the lady talking about what's her name? Duetchi? I don't know how to say her name. That rapper talking about how straight men are a red flag. It's like, bruh, like straight men are actually the reason that you even have a platform. Because straight men are pretty much the ones who are keeping the society running, like you said, Respect blue collar brothers. Who are the ones who are out there on the road, who are out there making sure like the water is clean, who are taking care of the sewage, the garbage, like all the things that don't nobody want to do, that ladies especially don't want to do, but are are like useful. It's blue collar men, like really, who really do ensure that the society is like cool. You know what I mean? Like isn't falling apart. So I hear you. I hear you. And this is why I think it's so stupid and so disrespectful when you basically bite the hand that feeds you, because God forbid you get in a place where those creature comforts aren't there anymore, or where you actually need to rely upon them. And what we're starting to find is that ladies are starting to understand and find out that like they really could benefit. They could benefit from a blue collar. They really could. And it's so crazy how there's been so much narrative out there about how certain jobs or certain kind of men and certain kind of people just are not desirable. And I'm like, first of all, these dudes really keep our society going. Second of all, your option now is getting to the point to where you learn how to get together or get along with some of these men. You learn how to respect them, humble yourselves, and actually learn how to respect them and honor like the value that they bring to society. Is that or homelessness? Like, because you can't do by yourself. You can't live with your mom. You don't get along with your sisters if you have any. Your friends can handle you because they have their own challenges. Like, so it's like you don't have a support system like that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, it's just, that's something else. Okay. Let's see how much, I have a few more. Let's see how much more I want to go. Okay, guys. So, let's see how many likes I have. So now I have 154. So I'm going to do one more break. I need some more likes and then we can continue if y'all should be right. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna play. I have a few more minutes, and a few more minutes, a few more things, but we'll see. We'll see how far we get with this live. But I wanted to play exactly what Dawn Robinson had to say about her own homelessness journey and why exactly she has decided to choose homelessness. So I want to break some of that down, and then yeah, we'll go from there. We'll see how long I'm gonna go.
A minute and a half. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so namaste, hola, all those things. Okay, hello in every language. Oh my gosh, life was life.
Okay, let me just say this real quick. You can do all that in a man, still treat you like her. Yeah, no, that's an illusion. That's what I'm trying to say. That's an illusion. Self-sufficiency, I believe, to a certain extent, it's an illusion. There are certain things that we are meant to do by ourselves, or we can do by ourselves, and we are meant to cover ourselves, right? Like there's a responsibility about being an adult that everybody has to have, carry their own weight. But we've gone over countless examples. First of all, the economy is such right now that, like, from a financial standpoint, a lot of ladies literally cannot do things by themselves. But even if you are maybe the top 10%, top 15% of Black women who has the capacity financially or has a degree to be able to, take care of yourself financially, that cannot and will not be able to suffice for the emotional and spiritual needs that we have. Those things cannot be met just individually by ourselves, amongst ourselves. Like, we are meant to have community. God created us that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is why I like to come so heavily against this lie, because as leading women just astray and has a lot of women just being lopsided. Just because you have money in the bank don't mean that you're still cool. You still got women who are doing that. And then, like I said, depressed and antidepressants, turning to tarot cards and sage and witchcraft and trying to do love potions and trying to do affirmations and to manage your bipolar disorder because spiritually they're deficient, emotionally they're deficient, because there are certain things that you can't just do by yourself. We're meant to have community and connections. We're meant to have a spirituality that connects us to other people. So no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that's a lie that women have been told, but we're seeing that illusion crack literally in front of us. Ladies who literally they can't even financially live alone. They can't even financially carry the burden by themselves, let alone the emotional and spiritual burden. That's why I keep on covering off these things, because as I mentioned before, the illusion is cracking and falling. And I think honestly, the solution is it's easy. Acknowledge that you've been told a lie, that you've been believing a lie, and just something as simple as starting to have more respect for the people around you, not thumbing your nose up to men. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of ladies out there who could be thumbing their nose up to their very own husband. They could have walked past their husband. They could have bypassed him. They could have overlooked him because he wasn't tall enough, because he was a blue collar worker and you wanted somebody with a particular degree, because he didn't come in the package that they thought that they needed. But actually, he was exactly what that woman needed. So these kinds of situations, I think they're humbling, but they're also opportunities for people to look in the mirror and see whether or not what they are believing is actually working for them. Is it the truth? Is this what God intended for them? Or are they just on some toxic feminist BS that has ladies just running their head up against the wall? If they can even afford it. I mean, now some ladies don't even have a wall to afford. Anyways, let me look. Let's continue.
And I had to deal with it like we all do. I'm glad to be back. I'm still on cloud 9017 from episode 5, because I did that on my own and I'm still just knocked out about it. Wow. Anyway, and I'd like to start this episode with a quote from Brene Brown. It's, I think, Brene Brown. Brene said, being vulnerable is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of courage, because you show up not knowing the outcome. You show up not knowing the reaction people are going to have and what they're going to feel about it, or how you're going to be judged. And when I first started this channel, I knew that I was going to talk about this episode. This was one of the topics that I wanted to discuss. And people are like back and forth with me over this whole time, like, well, you shouldn't talk about it because you're a celebrity, and what if they judge you? And I'm like, okay, what if? What if they judge me? So what? We're all judged. Life is life. And it was like, nobody has stepped or walked 5 steps in my stilettos. So it's real, and it's okay. It's like, part of being human is to be vulnerable. I'm human first. I don't care about celebrity. I don't care about being a woman. I don't care about any of the things that we think, oh my God, you shouldn't. It's like, that's the very reason that I should. That's the very reason that I am. I'm glad you guys are still with me and that you didn't give up on me. It's been a minute, like I said. So a lot of people are like, she's not coming back. We're not going to see her again. Yeah, you will. Thank you for having faith in me. Okay, that said, and I've always been honest too. That's the other thing. I'm like, why stop now? I'm not going to change who I am. I think that's what a lot of
You're asking if that's a chick from En Vogue? Yes, it is. That's her from En Vogue. We're reviewing the audio of the video that she just posted.
people love about me. I hope that's what you guys love about me. So anyway, my aim is to inspire and to let people know that you're capable of anything. No matter what the odds are against you, you are capable of anything. You're capable of everything. Whatever you think you can't do, you can do that thing. Like, come on, man. This is life. We got to figure shit out for ourselves. So anyway, I digress. You guys, for the past almost 3 years, I have been living in my car. I said it. Oh my God, it's out. I've been living in my car. Oh my gosh. If you remember, if you guys were with me, in 2020, I did like 105,000 interviews. And in the interim, I was living with my parents in Vegas.
Okay, this one I thought was really interesting, which I so agree. You're like, instead of the ladies, ladies getting in their 50s, 60s, who are hitting some really hard times in their life and being able to go back and reflect, instead of them going and maybe encouraging younger women to take different footsteps, encouraging younger women to learn from their mistakes, instead of them telling them that and saying, hey, I believed a lie, and saying, hey, I believe things that isn't working for me, saying, hey, I made some decisions that aren't helpful, make better decisions. Like, instead of saying that, they're doubling down and then pushing the same BS to younger generations of ladies. That's what's so annoying to me. I'm not mad at a person for falling on hard times. Hindsight is always 20/20. Everybody makes mistakes. Hopefully you learn from them. But what's annoying to me is when you come and you're faced with that reality. What's annoying to me is when you have these hard moments, you have these hard realities, and then instead of just calling a spade and articulating your truth and saying, man, you know what? If I could go back and do things a little differently, then I would. If I could go back and make some different choices, I would. I would encourage you to learn from my mistakes. Like, instead of saying that, now this has to be a whole self-love journey. And then we just continue this same toxic narrative to the younger generations that actually got you in the space that you're at that particular moment. That's, to me, what's annoying. That's what's really annoying to me. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
And that was wonderful until it wasn't. I love my mom, but she became very angry. And a lot of her anger, she was taking out on me, and I was her target all the time. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, I respect her too much. I didn't understand it. I still don't. And it hurt me. So I was just trying to figure it out, but I couldn't. You can't read someone else's mind. You can't figure them out. They got to figure themselves out.
You said 58. Oh my gosh. I thought she's 58. I mean, she looks great for 58, but my goodness. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you're almost 60. Well, we'll finish what you have to say, but you're almost 60, and you can't sit here and say, maybe there's some things I would have done a little differently. Maybe I would encourage women to consider this. As 58, I would hope, and of course she still has some more to say, but at 58, I hope she's going to have some wisdom to impart other than just focus on yourself, love yourself, be there for yourself.
So I was like, let me get out of here. And I was sleeping in my car for maybe about a month in Vegas. And then the guy that was co-managing me at the time was living in LA. And he said, you need to come back to LA because it's getting ready to be fire in Vegas. You need to come back. I love LA. So I said, okay. And he said that I could stay with him. And so I was like, okay. But you have a dog, I have a dog. Do we have? And he's like, I don't have a lot of room, but I'll make room for you. And then when I got to his place, he actually didn't have room for me. So it turned into, okay, well, I'm going to put you in a hotel for the night. And that one night turned into 8 months. Oh my God, you guys. I was like, no, this is unacceptable, because every apartment that I looked at, every single time I looked at a place, I would call him and I'm like, okay, can you meet me here? I would tell him ahead of time, of course. And then he wouldn't meet me there, and so I would take video and send it to him. And he's like, no, oh my God, this neighborhood, I hate it. I'm like, dude, I'm the one who has to live here. This is my remote for my phone. You can push play and pause and all that stuff, so that's why I'm holding this. Anyway, and it's way cheaper than the hotel. I told my assistant one day, I have been researching car life. There's a whole community of people that live in their cars, and a whole community of people that live in their RVs, and a whole community of people that live in vans. Van life, car life, RV life. And I loved what I was seeing. I just thought, wow, these people, I could do that. I could do this, I think. And I ended up in my car, and it's been, like I said, 3 years. Yeah, I mean, I felt like he was playing games, and I knew he was playing games, and I wasn't the one. I'm like, come on, I'm trying to make this easier on you because financially, I know it's got to be hard. You're paying your rent and you're paying my hotel. Like, no, his apartment was $1,700 a month. And then my hotel was over 3,000. Yeah, way too much. And no, I'm not doing this. I can't. So, and I was always stressed every week because he would pay weekly for the hotel. So every week I was like, oh my God, can you afford it? Are you okay? And he's like, no, I can't, but I'm getting it together. What? You're the one who said to go to the hotel and you're not approving any of the apartments. Like, it would be so much cheaper to just get me into an apartment. Like, what's the problem? Sometimes I think, you guys, people want to trap you and keep you in a situation where you're vulnerable and depending on them. And I wasn't the one. So, yeah, I got out of there.
It's crazy. I didn't know she was 58. That's wild to me. That's wild to me. 58, almost 60. We are going over an audio of her of Dawn Robinson from En Vogue. Many of you guys, sounds like you guys are familiar with her. We don't know the whole situation. All we know is that at 58, she admits to being homeless now for almost 3 years, which means she would have started her homelessness journey, when she was 55 or whatever. She's been living in the car the last 3 years. Yeah, I'm trying to see what advice she's going to give, if any warnings, if any, to younger generations. So she said she'll be 59 next month. That is insane. I didn't know that she was 58. That makes it even, to me, it's even sadder. Like, I don't think there's never a time where anyone desires or should desire to be homeless. I understand it's rough out there. That's not a desirable situation, but sometimes it happens. But to me, like, when you're when you're younger and going through that, yeah, it's not fun, but you can get through it. But when you get to where you are 58, and you're now struggling with homelessness, it's like there's not really like a ton more time you have to be on the like work, you know what I mean? Like in the job market like that. So, and that opens up a whole other point about just because somebody has the glitz and glam and just because somebody has media attention, she's been in all kinds of spotlights. We don't know how they live behind closed doors. And social media has taken this illusion and put it to a whole nother realm. You have TikTokers and social media gurus and influencers who are promoting all kinds of lifestyles that are being basically lived off of debt. Living paycheck to paycheck like your average American. Don't know where their next meal is coming from. Don't know where their next. Living like that, but they're promoting a lie. They're promoting a fantasy and then selling it to young people, selling it to young, impressionable women. Like, it happens all the time. So I think people are partially surprised because they're just like, wait, like, huh? You were a superstar. You had all these you had all this notoriety. You were in the media. Like, you, of all people, should not be homeless. Like, you should be at the very least in some stable scenario. And she comes out and says that she basically says that she's living in a car. What's going on, Mr. Z? Okay, I'll drop the link for Mr. Z because he's one of my favorite content creators. Shout out to you. And then after this, I may wrap this up. If anybody else wants to call in, help me reach my goal. If you help me reach my goal, then we can call in. If not, then I'm just dropping the link for Mr. Z. Okay. Yeah, so we are really quickly, we are going over Dawn Robinson. Like, it's kind of sad, honestly. It's really sad that here we are going over a really, a fairly prolific artist who is admitting that now at 58, she's living the van life. She's homeless, does not have a place to stay. And I wanted to review this because she is a microcosm of a bigger problem that's happening. There's a trend of, I want to call it homeless hustling, but I don't even know if it's a hustle. I think these women are like legitimately homeless. But the hustle is them trying to promote this as like some self-love freedom journey. Like now they're living like some hippie free life where there's no
There's not the burdens of rent, not the burdens of bills, and they're just living their free, I don't know, liberatory dream. And I'm like, I'm a woman. Don't nobody want to sit here and have to go to a gym to take a shower because they have no other option. Have to clean their makeup brushes in the shower, not have like a warm bed. Nobody does that on purpose as a woman. You don't do that on purpose. You know what I mean? What's going on, Mrs. Z?
What's going on, Shay? I'm gonna move fast because I don't got that much time and I'm outside. All right. Thanks for having me up first. Thanks, Shay. And we're both covering these type of topics. I gotta link it. I did kind of cover what you covered yesterday. I covered it also. So we kind of in the same place. I want to say to everyone, me and Sade called it like what 2 years ago, Shay? 2-3 years ago? We told them. Shay, we told them. And we've been constantly stressing and emphasizing that the environment's going to change, right? Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels told him, and this is not something to brag about, but
it's not.
Life is full of uncertainty. What did everybody expect?
For real.
The economic landscape could not continue. And now we're here, and there's a lot of things that I said this the other day, and somebody made note of it, so I'm going to continue to say it everywhere I go. Being single is a luxury, and that might be a luxury that you can no longer afford. That's for men and for women,
right.
But specifically for women, that might be a luxury you can no longer afford.
No, for real. I mean, literally, we're coming to that point. But what's crazy to me, Mr. Z, instead of them sitting here and saying, "Look, I believed a lie, and I'm not at the point where I can sustain this fantasy anymore." If you continue to listen to this video, we're going to hear her double down on her self-love journey and figure out how she's talking about dark night of the soul, and she's learning that she can go through anything and that she's really resilient. So it's like, instead of being like, dang, this is not working for me. Now she's going to double down. We're going to get there. Double down on why being single and independent is like a boss move. And I'm like, at what point do we just acknowledge that certain things just simply aren't working? Like, can we just acknowledge that? We're not here trying to say you're a horrible person or that it is, but I'm like, at what point do we just acknowledge that the A and B and C is like, they're not lining up. 1 + 1 is not equaling 2.
I think pride, Shay, if that makes any sense, and I'm sorry, I was a little quiet earlier. I'm being reckless right now, if you get what I'm saying. But don't put it in the comments. Don't put it in the comments for people that know. But yeah, pride, ego, and the ladies, instead of getting on a black man's program, they would much rather be single in their car, and I think that's perfectly okay. I think black men need to hold them to that, make them mean it.
Listen, I did this about a week ago, and now I'm seeing more in my algorithm where I'm like, I shudder to think that the reality is that black women are more prepared to be homeless than they are to be housewives. And you know how like it's been decades upon decades of basically black women being sensitized and somewhat brainwashed to accept that being a single mother is normal, to the point to where now like it's no big deal. And I'm thinking, okay, is this about to be the new trend? Is the new trend going to be black women getting these messages more and more that, hey, homeless van life isn't that big of a deal. You don't have to have a stable place to stay. It's okay if you just live in your car eternally. You can be bad by yourself. You don't need a man. Like, is this about to be the new norm that they're pushing? I don't know.
Can I?
Yes.
Let me offer something. Housewife, yes. Women writ large, black women specifically, they'll sign up for that. Being a wife and having to contribute financially while still having the man have the last say, that is when they draw the line. The problem that we have here is a marketized view of manhood and masculinity that women refuse to let go, even though they got hit with the equality and egalitarianism that they demanded. You have the equality and egalitarianism, fine. You want to go 50-50, fine. You want egalitarian, fine. But when men show women what egalitarian look like, they start, and there's been a number of researchers that show this, that women are just as hard up on patriarchy as ever. They just want, as I usually say, patriarchy by feminist specifications.
That part.
That's when all of this hit the wall. So will the women sign up for housewife? Oh yeah. But when you tell them wife, but you still gonna work, oh, that's when they're like, oh, actually, nope. and so be it. Mr. Z is all about it. So be it. Then starve. Oops.
And Mrs. Cartwright, I've talked about this with some of my members. Mrs. Cartwright today is working. All of them are working.
Exactly.
I just wanted a trip this weekend, right? And I've been open about this. I have a very diverse group of friends. Some of my married friends, many of them are white women, right? Because unfortunately, Black women aren't married like that. So as a married Black woman, it's a little harder for me to find, ladies who share my values. So I'm hanging with them over the weekend, right? And they're just casually talking about, budgets. They're talking about, okay, my husband gave me this amount of money to work with. Some of them talking about having to put in overtime to try to make the bills. Like all of them are talking about the ways in which they are having to manage the financial constraints, whether it be through living a very modest lifestyle, whether it be through themselves working and contributing money. But none of them are out here talking about, they're just doing Pilates and then going to the massage every other week and planning their next big vacation. Like, no. They're doing what the majority of mothers and wives,
over 75%.
Right.
Over 75% of mothers work in America.
And like I said, these are white women. So I don't, like I said, this whole Mrs. Cartwright illusion, Mrs. Cartwright ain't even living like that. Mrs. Cartwright is also on a budget. She's living within her husband's financial constraints, being submissive to that so that they don't have an argument, or she's contributing and then they're still working out the budget. But that's what most people are doing in middle class, upper middle class. You know what I mean? Like really only the upper class elite. That's really when it's like, okay, you want to talk about that whole housewife fantasy. That's if you're like for real rich. But even like upper middle class people are still budgeting and still trying to figure out how to navigate all of these different changes. That's real life.
Shay, before I go, I want to drop this on everybody. So there was an article that was published. There's a couple of things going on right now that's going to exacerbate this. I just want everybody, especially if you Black, to hold on to your hats.
Uh-oh. You dropped something?
I dropped my damn headphone. I'm sorry, Shay. But no,
Okay.
I just want to put everybody on game. There's a couple of things happening right now, and I want everybody to hold on to your hats because it's about to get rough, especially if you Black. Number one, the top 10% are spending 50% of the money in America.
Right.
They're 50% of the consumerism is going on by the top 10% of Americans, which is largely not Black people. We already know this. That's number one. Number two, the wealth transfer that's going to go from the boomers to their largely millennial children is not going to include us. So that's going to exacerbate the issue even more. Right? Number two. Number three, because we're not married, that makes whatever wealth or whatever 50 grand or 100,000 or 25,000 your parents are gonna leave you, that's gonna pale in comparison because the two white folks that got married, they're getting double the money. Right. You see what I'm saying? So all of this is exacerbating the wealth disparity, right? And remember the article that came out 2 years ago that said, Black wealth will be zero by 2053. I want everybody to remember that was before COVID. That was before COVID. COVID sped that timeline up. Number one. Number two, what's going on with everything and Trump and the way he's organizing things. And remember, most Black people that work for government. All of that's exacerbating this. So I want us to hold on to our hats, and Black women are going to have to make some different type of decisions in calculus. It's about to hurt. I hope all those content creators, all those Black girls in luxury, the swirlers, the investors, all of that stuff. I hope you mean it. I hope you mean it because it's about to be tough.
It's right. And like I said, I mean, I would not, you hit the nail on the head. I think at this point, if you are trying to navigate this by yourself, particularly as a woman, it's like, I mean, I don't want to say game over, but I'm like, good luck. Good luck. I don't know what to tell you. I would not want to navigate these next few months by myself. I would not want to navigate these next few months without a faith in God. And I definitely wouldn't want to do it without a husband, without a community. All those things, that's when these things become essential. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about how the issue that woman has is they're okay being a pampered housewife if that means they don't have to be submissive. But the idea of being a wife to a man and you still have to work and pay bills and submit to him or be cooperative, it's like, no, they're not willing to do that. That is the setup that they don't want. But that's
going to come at a consequence.
That's going to, so it's like, yeah. And like I said, in that sense, are they going to choose homelessness over being a housewife or a wife, period? Well, perhaps. That's what it seems like. But I'm just saying that doesn't work. Huh? There's
ways to think about homeless. If I live in South Florida, our our money is crazy. It's been like that forever. The prices of things have been crazy forever. And it's gotten worse as you know, more wealthy people have moved down. We have a number of billionaires that live in Florida. I think we're even ahead of, are we ahead of Texas? I think we're even ahead of Texas, even though we got like 2/3 of the population of Texas, something like that in Florida of billionaires, right? So you know that, and that's driving the price of everything up. And Jeff Bezos is moving down here too. So there you go. Right. So you know, when you consider that, the way people, women writ large, have gotten away from the stigma of homelessness was to live in their parents' home for an extended amount of time. We're talking about 30 something, 40 something years old, right? And you know, I'm Haitian descent, so that's nothing to us. We don't really have a stigma about it, especially if you're not married and you don't have any kids. It's nothing to have an aunt who's in her late 30s and she living at home with your grandparents because you know she never got married or has kids. But what I think is gonna happen are women are gonna try to do the Golden Girls thing, which is gonna be 4 or 5 deep in one house or one apartment. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Shay, it's gonna be some DV in the house. It's gonna be some DV in that apartment because the problem has always been the behavior. And if you never learned how to control your behavior and think about things differently, y'all gonna be fighting over the cereal. Y'all gonna be fighting.
No, Golden Girls. Let me tell you, Mrs. Z, you're right. And actually, it's funny you say that because I have, and this is even non-Black friends of mine, single women that I know who are around my age who never got married. They're just chilling at home, saving up money, never got kicked out. And I do find in certain cultures, like African cultures, Asian cultures, I mean, pretty much any culture that's not Western, it's not a big deal for somebody to stay at home a little longer if they're not married and just save up. It's like a different thing. But that is not an American ethic, but I think the economy is going to force the issue. And I do
we're
see
gonna have to reevaluate.
They're going to have to reevaluate. And you're right. Like they're not willing. Look, this whole, what is it? Boss babe, you call it brunch and munch. Y'all about to be brunch and munch and, you know,
Hey, if you're living with, I covered this a little while ago. The women that say, hey, they thought they had a homegirl and then their girlfriend literally tried to be their girlfriend. And she tried to make a move on them. So when I say brunch and munch, I'm just not pulling that out of nowhere. You know, thank you for shouting me out with that one, Shay. Thank you.
No, for real. I thought that was hilarious, but I'm like, because there's so much to that. There's so much to that. There's a lot you can dig into that. But I think that is the necessity that we're going to see. Women who maybe are tired of living in the car. If you got 3, 4, you know, van life chicks who are tired of you know being in their van when it's raining and there's a storm and they ain't no heat, they may all go and try to share one bedroom if they can put the little pennies together. And that's going to create a whole other dynamic, a very other interesting dynamic. And it just sounds like chaos. I'm like, Lord, send the rapture. You know what I mean? No, but my thing is, I would hope that these kinds of situations would bring humility, because that's what it's supposed to do. When life gets this hard, it can really cause you to examine if what you're believing is working for you or not. And
Shay, when you said, you know, send the rapture or bring the rapture, Dr. Richie, who has is it Indisputed? I can't remember what his channel name is. He says quote, he says stop the world and let me off. And I think that's absolutely hysterical. But you know, I'm gonna have to head out, Shay, but thank you for having me up, and shout out to the chat. And you know, Shay, I'm gonna invite you to my channel. I'm gonna send you an email and everything, because I think there's so much to expound on this. Yeah, and sure. I want to kind of, you know, and thank you for that. Thank you very much. Absolutely. I know this is kind of informal, I know, but yeah, and thank you for that, Shay, and shout out to the chat. But yeah, it's gonna get real. Even Black men, buckle up. All right, y'all. Love.
Okay, you take care. Yeah, so a lot there. There was more that I wanted to cover off, but it's getting kind of late. So I have a. Let's see how many people I got. I see 519 live viewers, but let's see how many likes I got. Let's see how many likes do I have with respect to the viewers, because like I said, y'all don't be treating me right all the time. Okay, so we have why is this not acting right? Just get the likes up, y'all, while I'm trying to bring it up. Get those likes up. We've covered up a lot. Maybe I'll do a part 2 or just do a whole different thing on this, because honestly, yeah, this is going to be an ongoing topic. I hate to say it, but this is not going to be the first time, or this will not be the first time that we see Black women going viral for being homeless. I really hate to say that, but that's the reality. this is like becoming a thing, and this is exactly why I wanted to cover it, because it's going viral because this is a celebrity, a rather prolific artist who was opening up about their van life journey, but she is a microcosm to what is becoming an increasing trend as this empire is completely changing and as the economy is toughening. And my question for these ladies is, at what point do we recognize that things aren't working for us? At what point? Mr. Z made a really, really good point as far as ladies not liking the idea of having to submit, work with a man, be a husband to a man, and pay bills. Like that not sounding like a good deal. But at the end of the day, the economy is such that it's like you're gonna have to pick and choose. Somebody's gonna have to choose van life. Somebody may have to do a Golden Girls thing, a whole Golden Girls situation where it's you living up in a house with 5 other women trying to figure out that thing, or learning how to cooperate and get along with a man. Like the economy is getting to the point where those are going to be your options: homeless, sharing a room with 5 other women or however many other women, doing a Golden Girls 2025, or learning how to cooperate with a man. But what we're starting to see is that, women can do bad by themselves. Women actually are doing bad by themselves because we were never meant to live this life by ourselves anyways. We were never meant to be like an island unto ourselves. That was the biggest illusion, biggest lie from the gate. And now it's being tested. And now we're seeing how under fire, under pressure, it crumbles. Okay, Game Changer, I see you. I have like only a few minutes because I want to hop off, but I'll bring you on because I know that you have been a loyal, a consistent supporter. So if you want to share your thoughts here, keep this brief because I'm gonna have to hop off, but I know you had something you wanted to share.
Okay, sure. I actually didn't expect to come up. I just clicked the button because in case you reach your goal, I wanted to, not get caught in the back.
Okay.
But no, since I'm up, I do want to say that the option to live at home, because Nelly, the rapper, he said that his daughter can live in her room, in his home for as long as she wants or needs. However, his son, he would have to sleep on the couch and have some sort of arrangement to when he's going to get out the house.
Okay.
So it is a real thing. That is an option that is available to young women and not young men.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because we live in an equal opportunity society. So if there's a lack of opportunity for both young men and women, it's just unfair treatment. But that's a whole separate topic. And lastly, I just want to say about Black culture, particularly as it pertains to females, they've been groomed to embrace independence over everything. Independence is the top. It's the Smurfberries to Smurf. It's the honor to Klingons. It is the most important thing that there possibly could be. It's the Roadrunner to the Coyote. It's the most important thing ever, independence, which means that she would rather be an independent homeless woman than to be a dependent, because if she's entering a relationship with no money and no place to live, she's dependent on the man. She would rather be an independent homeless woman than a dependent wife or girlfriend or, whatever.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And that, that opens up a much larger conversation I probably won't be able to get to in this particular live, but I do think it opens up a conversation about a rebellious nature that's been going on for quite some time. There's a lot of, I think, just rebellion that has been just going on in the Black community for decades now. And when I say rebellion, I mean rebellion against the way God created us and like natural order. I know it's going to make some women mad, but I'm like, the same women who love to talk about wanting a God-fearing man and wanting someone who can lead them and guide them, the same one who used tarot cards and burned sage and used tarot cards to try to get the men out there, and then don't want to know nothing about what God has to say about a woman's role and a woman's place. And I say all the time, men and women are not the same. Women have a role. No, you're not meant to just be making up things and creating your own rules and creating your own rules is what has gotten us here. Women living off of their own playbook is what has gotten them here. So clearly that's not working. So I agree what you're saying, because I think the embracing of independence and basically trying to pretend like you can do every single thing that a man can do is partially the problem. We're not the same. We are not the same, and we're seeing that.
Agreed. It's interesting how on some levels we understand that men and women aren't the same. That's why Nelly allows his daughter to live with him and not his son.
Exactly.
So on some level we understand that, but on other levels, as far as, she's in the case of Nelly's daughter, if she actually had to live with this, she would be retaining traditional privileges. However, she won't submit to a traditional role. So I do find that interesting. And that is something, I'm not going to say it's unique to the Black community, but it's definitely polarized in the Black community, to a ridiculous extent.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I think a Dr. T. Hasan Johnson, he brought up this idea of the Black module economy, where he kind of talks about how society works in such a way that it treats men and women differently. It's the unspoken things. And then particularly Black men, we see that. And it can be something small, right? Like a Black man shows up to a school, right? To try to interact or try to find out about his child. The way he's going to be treated if he does that versus if he shows up with a girl or grows up with a wife. Or I remember back when I was a child looking at open houses with my dad. And he would talk about how different it was when it was him versus when it was me. He would brought a daughter or he brought my mom. So it's just like the little ways in which society treats men and how men are oftentimes or can be perceived as threats or can be perceived as dangerous unless they have a woman on their side. And that's just one little microcosm, I think, of how society treats men and women differently. And I think to a certain extent, I've always said, well, men and women are different. I think men have the ability to be in solitude a lot longer. I think men by nature have the ability to manage like physically, maybe more grueling situations, if you will. Even if you look at the jobs that men take, men are the ones who are in the sewers, who are doing the oil rigs, who are on the construction site. Like it's men who are doing those kind of jobs. So nature shows us all the time that we have a different capacity. That I just think that's why it's so damaging when we like to play both sides, and in one end pretend like we're equal, but then at the other end have all these allowances for women. And it's just like, can we just be honest all across the board? Let's just be honest.
I think the reason why there's that stigma when it comes to single men that doesn't really exist with single women is because it's implied when you're a single man that you have failed at something. It's implied because of the male sex drive versus a woman's sex drive that you because you have a male sex drive, you obviously are driven to seek that type of companionship from a person, and the fact that you don't have it means that you have failed in that endeavor. Now, because women don't necessarily have as high of that drive, it don't look like they even tried to have failed. So I think that's part of the reason why there exists that stigma. That's why words like incel implies to men only and not women. So there's definitely a there.
Well, and like I said, even if because there's femcel, I covered that off a while back. But the thing
that's
about
implied voluntary.
Implied voluntary, yeah. The thing about it is, like I said, even the way incel versus a femcel, anytime, and we saw this yesterday with the article that I looked at, right? Anytime you see a woman complaining about her lack of options in the relationship dating market or whatever, it's the men's fault. Yeah, it's always a men's. It's always because of the deficiency of the man. When we think of the Black community, it's because Black men are either gay or they're in prison or they're with snow bunnies or they're just too crazy or insane or toxic to be good for anyone, right? But it's always because of the deficiencies of the men or how men show up. We've addressed this. It's never, ever because we never look at the way in which Black women at large are showing up in the same dating market. So, I mean, that's, like I said, a prime example of how there's just not even balance when it comes to these different things.
Agreed. The system is out of whack because we don't live in a culture, and I'm talking about all of the West, don't really live in a culture where the roles are defined in a way that benefits both. I mean, we had definitions like that, but they were thrown out the window somewhere in the 60s, and then now we're just really just trying to figure it out.
That was interesting. You said incel was originally for, I was not aware of that. I was not aware that was originally a term for, when I first heard of incels, obviously we heard it connected to men, I mostly heard it connected to like red people in the red pill space, and then people trying to allude to the fact that incels are like super violent. But I remember doing a deep dive on incels versus femcels, and what I saw was that incels legitimately had a lack of female interest, whereas femcels had male interest. They just were not. They just were ignoring the guys that were interested in them.
Exactly. They were less willing to break.
They were less willing.
Yeah, exactly.
So one, femcels, the women were complaining about a lack of quality, whereas the men were complaining that they just didn't have options. Like they just didn't have women who were even willing to give them a time of day. So completely different scenario.
And that's why men are looked at differently, because they're looked at as, rejected by a gender, where a woman is looked at as, maybe her standards are too high.
It is. No,
and that's
for
the
sure.
worst way to look at them.
No, for sure. And even now, I'm recognizing now, like when you have these women who come out and go viral talking about how horrible the relationship options are, and you'll have all kind of women who go in and agree. It's not uncommon now for me to see a man respond and be like, okay, so how many men did you turn down? Or how many men did you overlook? Or how many men did you, because we're just like, we already know what time it is.
I was saying I coined that response a long time ago.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't get the credit, but yeah, I coined that response a long time ago.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah, you're right. It's a natural response. I mean, and I think that this goes to like the fluidity of the word good. When they say, there are no good men, they put that word in there. It's very important that they put that word in there, because that protects them from that particular response. It's right. Like, oh, it's not that I don't get approached by men. I don't get approached by good men. And then they can tailor the word good to whatever qualities that particular man lacks, because no one's perfect.
Right.
So whatever his imperfection is, maybe he stutters, maybe he has crooked teeth or something like that.
Right.
Like he has a job. He would be a provider protector. He's 6'5", 6-pack, 6 figures and all that. But but those shoes though, I need a good man. So it's really
it's just so stupid. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a way to advert when really they just are trying to leverage a better deal.
Right.
I wouldn't say that men would be much different if the circumstances were somehow reversed. But most definitely that's what they're doing. Right. I think that men will behave in the same way, meaning that they will always look for a prettier woman before if they had infinite options, they would continue to look for a more attractive woman until they're much, much older. But they wouldn't lie about it. That's just what they would do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a difference. I want to say something else about the homeless thing, though, if I could.
Yeah, and then I keep on seeing someone say, "Where's the link?" Yeah, I was opening up the link if I reach my goal. So
I think you're closer. You're like at 11, right?
Yeah, we were almost there. But
okay, I'll send one.
I'll let you call in because I know you're a consistent supporter. But I know people are asking the link. Yeah, that's what we do these days. So okay, we're gonna
send one, and hopefully that'll get you to the goal.
I appreciate you've been a
oh yeah, so no about thank you. So about the homeless thing. So my first, because what I do on my show is I have like a designated YouTube crush that I have. And the first one that I had was a woman by the name of Janelle. Janelle is a woman who actually, oddly enough, she lived in her van.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen her show. She lives in her van, or she lived in her van. She made a lot of money off of YouTube, and she had a pet snake or something like that. And she told stories about her van life.
Was it Janelle Eliana?
I don't know her last name. She's maybe like in her early 20s, and she lives in a van with a snake.
Okay, with a snake. Okay.
I mean, if you type in on YouTube Janelle that lives in her van, she'll come up.
Okay.
So one day I seen one of her shows, and this was a long time ago, and she featured her father. And her father was, she's half Ethiopian. Her father was this, he seemed like a very nice guy. And I didn't know that the reason that she lived in her van was out of defiance to him. Okay. And for the 2 years that she lived in her van from 18 to 19, from like 17 to 19, that was just her running away from home and living in her van while her father was worried sick about her over something petty, over a petty disagreement. He wasn't a person, he wasn't a abuser or anything like that. So it really changed my perspective of her in a very bad way. It's
Okay,
like, wow, she just,
and I see what you're saying.
Yeah, she before she had like a hippie, I don't follow society's rules, and which is good because feminism is one of society's rules, she kind of fell into that category, but then she fell into a
feminist category.
I defy the patriarchy, even if it's in the form of a loving father type thing.
Yeah,
and I'll still live in my van than eat my vegetables if my father. It was a complete change in perception of her.
Yeah.
So that answers one question: can a man be attracted to a woman that lives in a van? The answer to that is Janelle. And because I see guys in the chat room saying that she's pretty, and she is. So that answers that question. And yes, they do it out of defiance. Most women who are in that,
yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, okay, Game Changer, this is, as always, good conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, you have a good one.
You as well.
Okay, so I want to make sure, shout out to you, Daniel Jackson Reactions. It says, it seems like women are coming up with ways not to be with men, but once all the ideas run out, then they're going to have to go back to men and do right. I agree. The thing is, there's just some ladies who are not going to want to cooperate, or even the idea of cooperate would make some women cringe. Literally cringe. That idea, I mean, for a lot of guys, it's like cooperate. It's like, yeah, that's great. A woman hears cooperate, they may throw their phone. So, but thank you so much for the support. This one here, it says, I appreciate your voice in this space. I don't have the bandwidth to converse with many Black women anymore. Absolutely. Thank you for your support. Thank you for stopping by. And yeah, I hope you find more of what I'm saying. Useful. This one here, it says, I've built container home and RVs, money for me. Okay, shout out to you, Scorched Earth. It says, I'll modify RVs or vans to live in blue collar. Okay, shout out to you again. Dainty Sachet, do you listen to En Vogue? Favorite song? Not. I've heard of them. I just never listened to them that deep. They're a little bit before my time, but I have heard of them. Yeah, I've heard of them. Okay, this one right here, it says, Shay, honestly, I think she got blackballed for leaving the group and leaving the group. Lucy Pearl with Raphael Sadiq too labeled problematic. Would not be surprised. I understand that the music industry is very, very tricky, and they do artists. They don't do artists right. And a lot of times they do obviously do some crazy things with Black artists in particular. So I would not be surprised if she wasn't paid properly, if there was a whole bunch of different stuff that happened to where she wasn't given royalties. Because I'm like, where are the royalty? All of that stuff. So I would not be surprised if there was some blackballing that happened there. Okay, so I think I got all of those super chats that came in. Thank you guys for hanging out. Oh, also I did see a Cash App come through from Maurice Salter with the 25. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for your support. And you guys, we'll probably be continuing this conversation just with respect to homelessness in general, because I don't think if things continue the way that they are and things continue in this direction, then this won't be the first time we see a Black woman going viral, or maybe even a popular Black woman going viral for admitting that she's living in a van or just homeless by quote unquote choice. So we'll continue this, but anyways, be sure to like, share, subscribe on the way out. If you like what this is about, obviously you can find me on Cash App, Venmo, Shay Sade, and let me know what you think down in the comment section. I'm wondering if we're just going to see van life become more and more of a cultural norm. Just like single motherhood, baby mamas is a cultural norm in Black America, are we going to start to see van life become a cultural norm for those ladies who decide that those ladies who are dedicated to doing things by themselves and holding on to their independent narrative? Curious. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll talk later. Bye.